Hey guys, this is Doc Huffpower coming to you from my studio here in Alvin, Texas. Today we are interviewing 4 amazing dentists. They each have very different types of practices, and we're going to dive into exactly how their practices run, how they built them, and kind of their philosophy as an owner. Before we get into that, let me introduce them. We've got David Yang, Travis Campbell, Brady Smith, and Steven Mautner. So before we go much further, I'd like them to kind of introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about their practice style, and kind of their philosophy as a manager. And then we're going to move on. And after that, we're all going to get into a discussion about different areas of practice management, including fee-for-service, out-of-network, and PPO practice, and as well, HMO practice. So I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. Let's get started off with David Yang. Hey folks, welcome to the Dear Doc podcast, where we discuss the practical aspects of running your dental practice, as well as the technology, softwares, and services that can help to empower you as a dentist. I'm your host, Doc Huffpower. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. Is your resume or job posting just not being seen? You need a better plan. Whether you're looking for a permanent or temporary position or looking to hire, at Cloud Dentistry, we have you covered. We connect practices with verified professionals interested in temp and permanent work. Sign up for your free account in just 2 easy steps. Go to www.clouddentistry.com and start browsing the dental talent in your area today. David, how are you this morning?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Great that you guys could give us this much time on a Saturday, by the way. Thank you.
No problem. So I run a small boutique fee-for-service dental practice up in Flagstaff, Arizona. I basically have, we're open 5 days a week. I have 1 hygienist per day. I always have minimum 2 dental assistants in the back, 2 up front. So, just a typical 6-chair dental practice that, we focus on spending more time with our patients and, don't have to be super busy, because my philosophy is that we all, work and do great and make a similar amount of money. We just have different way of doing things.
Fantastic. And your practice so far as insurance participation, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So basically, my practice has gone from, I've always been a fee-for-service practice, as I started as an associate in the practice and buying half of it, and now obviously 100%. And we've tried both, what people call ON and fee-for-service. I just found out, it's easier to, not to be the onus on why your insurance doesn't pay for this, pay for that. We just go ahead and have a fee schedule, and our patient pays 100% up front, and then we do give them back their insurance information so they can just go ahead and mail that in. And so we're not the ones who is playing the bad guys, and we let the insurers do what they do.
Excellent. And before I go on to the next guest, do you have any kind of charitable foundations that you run, or do you have any businesses doing consulting or anything like that that you would like to talk about real quick?
So I'm terrible at running side gigs. I run a Facebook group called Real World Dentistry, but I do it just because I enjoy it. I don't take any money from it. I don't do anything. I don't have a side gig, and I wish I did, but I'm also kind of lazy. And so I just do what I do, and I enjoy it.
Fantastic. Okay. Next up, we've got Dr. Travis Campbell. Dr. Campbell, tell us a little bit about your practice, your participation in insurance, and any other factors in your practice that make it a little bit different.
So I've got a practice I started from scratch 15 years ago, and we are almost fully in network. I have maybe 5 or 10% fee-for-service patients. We've got 2 to 3 hygienists most days, 2 to 3 assistants. But, what I think a lot of people mistake for what we do is I'm not a speedy dentist. I'm not running around the office or anything else. My team is the one who does, a lot of the work. And so what I usually try to, help people with is find ways to delegate, because that's the only way to do it if you're trying to run high efficiency offices. It's not that the dentist has to do a lot more work. It's that you have to have a better team and training on that end, better systems to make things work. So
talk to us a little bit about the physical plan of your office, so far as chairs, team members, et cetera.
We have 8 operatories, although I really only use 5 most days. 10 team members, and that's basically a standard office from that viewpoint. The extra chairs we usually used for either specialists that came in, or I rented space to a dentist for a couple of years.
Fantastic. Charitable works or businesses that you'd like to talk about before we go on?
My wife would probably say I have too many businesses. The main one is just I teach people how to manage insurance, whether in or out of network, just to make it a much easier process and better for the patient, and definitely easier for the office.
Fantastic. And you guys can see on the sign right there behind him, he is the dental insurance guy. He's also got a great book out there if you want to pick that up. Travis, where can they get that?
DentalInsuranceGuy.com.
Fantastic. We're going to go Brady last because there's something specific I want to ask him about. Dr. Steven Mautner, talk to us a little bit about your participation, non-participation, the size of your office, number of staff, and any particular management philosophies that you use to carry this off.
So my philosophy is basically that dentistry is overpriced. So when I was a young dentist, I took over this office from a buddy of mine who was giving up dentistry. So I could see that there was a hesitation for these patients to pay a young dentist like me the average price for dentistry. And I had done some reading about different business leaders in the past who made money competing on price. So I decided to compete on price. So I cut all the fees drastically, and then I signed up for all these insurance plans because, I figure if a patient's going to pay me $300 a crown, which is what I was charging back in '93, I could accept it from an insurance company. So that pretty much took off from there. Patients come to me because they know I'm not going to nickel and dime them or overcharge them, and they're going to be able to get dentistry for a reasonable price or even for what their insurance pays. And I'm a big believer in doing what the insurance covers. Patients like that. And as far as my staff, I have about 10. I have 2 dental assistants, 1 girl that just does cleans the rooms and does the instruments. I have 2 hygienists, and I have a specialist that comes in on Wednesdays and does implants and extractions. And the rest of the time, I'm by myself. I used to have associates, but I found I was able to generate the same numbers without an associate. So since '07, I've been working without an associate. I'm a solo guy. I take walk-ins in the mornings. My office is like a chaos. It's like an emergency room for dentistry, but that's the way I like to practice. I like to be overbooked because I don't like to depend on any one patient for my production. I depend on everybody. If someone cancels or no-shows, I could care less. In fact, I'm happy. It frees up my schedule because I'm always behind. So that's basically my practice. And I take all insurances except for Medicaid. That's
I was going to bring that up. You do actually take HMO, which is a big differentiator between you and our other PPO dentists. And we're going to dig into that and just some mechanisms, perhaps some strategies for making that pay. But we're going to get to that.
HMO is actually declining over the course of my practice because employers have more switched to a PPO type model. And then also the big part of my practice is Medicare Advantage, which is a relatively new thing that no one seems to know about except for me for some reason. But so HMOs are a very small part of my practice. But I manage the HMOs like I manage everybody else. I don't like if all they needed, for example, is like no fee amalgams, for example. I don't do quadridentistry on that. I do 1 or 2 at a time, and they're quadruple booked for like 15 minutes to a half hour, and I get to them when I get to them. That's all. That's how I handle the HMOs. But everyone gets the same thing as far as the cleanings and the x-rays. I don't deny them the cleaning and the x-ray, but I don't like bend over backwards to get them in. So
fantastic.
But HMOs are a very small part of my practice now. My capitation payments are very low, like maybe $2,000-3,000 a month. I have this reputation as an HMO guy, but I'm really not.
So the one thing I think we didn't cover, and if you did, I missed it. How many chairs do you have in your practice? What is the practice physical plant like?
Oh, I have 10, and most of the time during the week I work out of 4 myself and the 2 hygiene. But I have a 3rd hygiene chair that in the past I had 3 hygienists, like a 3rd part-timer, and then I have 3 in the back for the perio guy, which he uses on the Wednesday when he's there.
Fantastic. Okay. And Steven, do you have any courses or anything that you teach, any charitable entities that you run or help out with or anything like that that you'd like to cover today?
No, I just talk to dentists on my own, just help them out. And the charity I do is in my office. I do a pro bono dentistry. I help people out. Everyone's doing all these outside charities. Why not do the charity in your office? The patients are there. So occasionally I'll take a patient that I feel sorry for. I won't charge them, or I'll do extra work. And I have no side. I'm like David. I have no side gigs. So it's dentistry, and then that's it.
That's not true. Steven has a book. I have a book Steven wrote.
Oh yeah, that's stupid. I made $1,000 off that book. That's not a side gig. That book.
It's in my office. I read it.
I did that for fun, and I have a group, Dental Town Rejects. Also, it's like David's group. It's just for fun.
I think a lot of people think that when you write a book, you make a lot of money off of it, and that's something we have several people here, I think, who've written a book. So, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Brady, talk to me real quick about your practice. You do have a distinguishing model that is very different from anyone else, and I think actually it is on the rise right now. There's been a lot of people asking about it. So talk to us a little bit about who you are, where your practice is, size of your practice, insurance participation, and of course the special X factor of your practice.
So I've been a dentist for 15 years. I started with a group called Comfort Dental, which some people might know, and Comfort Dental is probably most famous in Colorado and probably most famous for having a hygienist-less model. They don't employ hygienists typically. 3 years ago, I bought my practice from Comfort Dental, so I am decorporatizing dentistry. I'm the only one decorporatizing. Try to find that out there. So I'm no longer part of Comfort Dental. I started my own thing called Tooth Docs. We have 3 practices in Vancouver, Washington. We accept basically all insurances. We have one HMO, one capitation plan that we accept called Delta Care, which works well for me. I like it. There's good and bad things about it. But I'm most similar to Steven, to Mautner, because I also agree that dentistry is overpriced, and we deliberately and intentionally try to be the as low as we can, comfortably, while making a decent living. And so we definitely run volume. I definitely get the whole chaotic vibe in my office as well. Some days it's worse than others. We do accept Medicaid in my office as well. I do about 400 implants a year, and I would say 60 to 70% of those implants are on Medicaid patients who are paying fee-for-service because it's not a covered benefit by Medicaid. So that turns into a fee-for-service relationship, and that's same with molar endo. That's same with crowns and crown and bridge work with Medicaid patients. It all turns into fee-for-service when it's not a covered benefit by the state of Washington. So we have 3. We just acquired a brand new practice, so we have a little baby practice we just acquired a month ago, and that makes it our 3rd practice. And I have 1 business partner. I only work in 1 single office. She works in another office, and our 3rd office is associate driven. And my office is 6 ops and probably 13 employees, no hygienists in any of the 3 offices.
Fantastic. And so far as your charitable contributions or side gigs, other things that you do, I know you've got a podcast, and habitually in trouble with the hygienist for that podcast too, if I recall. But Talk to us a little bit about your other endeavors.
Yeah, I have an OnlyFans where I drill teeth with my feet. You can hit me up at Dr. Brady on OnlyFans. And David already is a member. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate your support and your subscription. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do have a charity called the Halo Dental Network. And I love what Steve said about do the charity in your own office. That's what we facilitate. We facilitate full comprehensive dentistry where nobody has to travel. Patient doesn't travel. Doctor doesn't travel. You do it with your team. So you involve your team. It's called the Halo Dental Network. You can go to halodentalnetwork.org and check out all the details. We basically cover all your lab fees. We cover implants. We're sponsored by BioHorizons and Henry Schein. So basically we can cover all materials so that it makes it so the doctor is simply donating their time only, you know, and they're able to make life-changing dentistry happen for people who can't afford it. It's awesome.
Fantastic. So, guys, you can actually donate to the Halo Dental Network. I have done so in the past, and one of my businesses actually, I think, donated some crowns. Did that ever work out with 4G?
Yeah, no, 4G helps us out all the time. Yeah.
Fantastic.
They're great labs.
I thought I saw the Halo Dental Network on one of my client lists, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, so guys, the rest of this interview is going to be a little bit different. In general, whenever we interview someone, it's one or two people, and we talk to each one individually. This is going to be a roundtable discussion to just kind of facilitate discussion of different models. Do they work? Are they for you? How do you make them work? How do you build them? So the first thing I'm going to talk to you guys about, and I'm going to open this up to everyone. Don't worry about talking over each other. Everything's fine in this one. Just, be respectful. First question. If you had a young dentist who came to you and said, hey, I've just finished my undergrad in, underwater basket weaving, and I want to be a dentist, would you recommend them to become a dentist? And if not, why? And if so, what path would you recommend for them to follow to make sure that they do well, not just in dental school, but also get accepted? I know big question, big ideas, but we do have a lot of dental students who watch this.
Well, I always recommend dentistry as a career, but you have to either have family money behind you or be willing to take out the big loan, but keep it, spread the payments out so your cash flow is not impacted. And you have to be good with people and with your hands. And to be honest, I'm really surprised anyone would become a dentist whose family isn't in dentistry, because my family is a bunch of dentists, so it made it very easy for me. My dad was a dentist, grandfather. So, but you have to also shadow a dentist and just make sure you want to do something like that, because dentistry is hard work and you're dealing with crazy people. So if you don't mind working hard and you don't mind dealing with crazy people, you can make decent money in dentistry. But you're not going to be an instant millionaire like everyone acts like on Facebook. It's like a grind. It really is a grind. It takes years to become successful. And it's hard work. You have to work. So people don't like to work anymore, unfortunately. So if you don't like to work, don't become a dentist.
I think that's great advice and great insights. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that?
I would say I wouldn't do it for the money. If you just want to be rich, it's a long path. There's way easier paths just to make money and wealth.
Become an investment banker.
Well, yeah, not really, because my nephew was an investment banker, and those guys, he worked for Guggenheim, and the hours were way worse than a dentist. And these guys would call him on a Friday night when he was out on a date that he had to drop everything and come work on a deal. I don't have to do that. And you can be wealthy as a dentist. I would have been wealthy if it wasn't for my ex-wife spending all the money. So you can become wealthy as a dentist. There was some sort of parasitic infection that happened with Steven, and it siphoned off a good deal of his money. But, no, seriously, you can't become wealthy as a dentist. That's totally not true. I know.
So, Brady, you can become wealthy as a dentist. I just wouldn't do it because of the money. If I just wanted to be rich, I wouldn't go to 4 years of dental school and take out $500,000 in debt just because I thought that's the way to become rich. There's faster, less expensive ways, less risky ways to accumulate wealth.
That's going to be our next question. That's going to be our next question: is the debt to income ratio, and and some things that the government has looked at to say if a certain profession is still a good idea. David, I think you wanted to add something.
Yeah. So, like dentistry, medicine versus, other entrepreneurial stuff where you can get rich or, make money. I think basically, just look at five of us. We're all very different people, all successful, all different models, but we all get there. So it's the same thing. Like, if you have the inner drive, you can make money. That's not an issue. It's like, how are you going to go about doing things? And a lot of times, I always look at like, why did I pick dentistry over getting into, banking and other stuff, is because honestly, there is a safety net, becoming a dentist. We all know that we're going to make a certain amount of money. We're not going to go ahead and become this billionaires. You can, but we basically have a general idea that when we get in this thing, we're going to make a comfortable living versus you go into banking and other stuff. There's more to me. Yeah, I could have made more money that way, but there's also bigger risk in doing certain things. So, for the young people, it's like, when you get into, things like this, that's the difference, and you can also talk about the things we don't talk about is for me there, I wanted to be in medicine and I wanted to help people. Although that's always, people like, oh, I want to help people or whatever. But I did. And I also wanted to be maybe certain social status as being a dentist. So it encompasses all that. It's not just about making money, it's where you want to be. And yeah, and dentistry, you are going to make money, and it doesn't really matter, if you want to take HMO, you want to take, be a fee for service, whatever it is, you do it well and you're going to be successful. It's really simple as that. And that's why I always argue. It's kind of funny because I'm a fee for service dentist. I was arguing about, I hate these people who are online saying only way you can make money in dentistry is fee for service. It drives me crazy.
Right.
Because it actually has to do with who you are. If you want to be in this space, yes, you can be successful, but not everybody wants to sit around and I show my schedule, and some people, text me and go, that would drive me crazy. And when I was younger, I was anxiety driven. Even if I was successful, I'm like, holy crap, I got 6 people on my schedule, Mm-hmm. And so, it's not always greener on the other side. We have our own issues, difficulties. I'm always looking to replace patients into the practice, whereas Monica can just sit around going, one guy left, who cares? Here comes 20 more, so,
right.
It's like, it's, you got to figure out who you are and you'll be successful.
I love it. And Travis, do you have any advice for those dental students or prospective dental students?
Well, the answer to almost every question live comes down to the why. Why are you doing it? Why do you want to do it? And if you want to be a dentist, then great, do it. But if you don't want to be a clinical dentist, you are going to hate your life if you try. Dental school is not easy. As Lottie said, you deal with patients who are crazy and stupid and don't even want to come see you. As Brady said, there's much better ways to make money. So it's got to be the why. Do you really want to be a dentist? Great, do it. You can absolutely be successful. But if you don't want to be a dentist, you're going to hate your life if you try to become one. And that's for any job, anything in life. You got to find the thing that gives you passion.
Hey folks, before we get into today's program, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about one of our sponsors, DocSites. DocSites provides affordable and effective websites for dentists with no long-term contracts, transparent pricing, and great customer service starting at only $59 per month. They also provide optional online marketing packages to help you increase your online visibility. For special offers, including up to 25% off of your website setup, text podcast to 818-489-9823. Again, that's 818-489-9823. Now, this is a limited time offer, so text now and lock in your savings. Or you can visit docsites.com/DocSites. dentistry.com/TBOD for more information. Fantastic. Okay, now for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Christopher Huffpower. I no longer own a practice, but my practice was a 3-chair practice in Alvin, Texas. I became a fee-for-service over the years, but I began as a PPO dentist and networked with 27 different insurances. I had to become fee-for-service in self-defense because I underbuilt my office. Unlike these guys who are way smarter than I am, I only had 3 chairs in my entire practice. So I had to find a way to make each one of those chairs pay much more money per hour than what I was able to earn running through PPO patients. So that's my story so far as dental school. If I were to make any kind of recommendation, everything that these guys said is absolutely dead on, spot on. You're not going to get into it for the money. If you do, it's the wrong reason. It's just simply too hard of a profession for that to be your primary motivator. There are a lot easier things to make big money at. But if you really want to help people, honestly, as much as society seems to hate dentists, we are the people who take people out of pain. We are the people who can give people their lives back, their self-confidence back. There's a lot to recommend it. So
Well,
guys,
you
I'm
could
going
have
to open it
expanded
up.
your office. You know, I had a 3-chair office when I started. It was insurance driven. I moved when I got too big.
We
when I had
were
too many
locked
patients.
into a 10-year lease. And the place next door, I tried to negotiate with them, but and there was an empty unit too, but they just wouldn't move. They didn't want to go through all the headache of changing their mailing address, which is funny because they only had 2 people in the entire business and they had 1,800 square feet. That would have been really nice. So
yeah, I didn't really have a lease. It was a weird thing. I didn't sign I didn't renew the lease, and the landlord just let me stay there. And I was like month to month. So I just moved out. I didn't even tell him. I just left.
I think that was a different time, my friend.
Yeah, it was like 96 it was different. It was different.
You know, I'll tell you what makes me sad is you go on Facebook or social media sites and you listen to lots of dentists. There's entire groups of dentists that as soon as they graduate, they're trying to get out of dentistry. I mean, there's entire groups dedicated to how the hell do you stop doing, like as soon as you start, here's how you stop. And that always blows my mind. If I won the lottery today, I'd still work a day or 2 a week. It's, it's got to be purpose driven. And so it's weird when these people go through dental school. I'm like, why did you do this? Why did you do this if your real passion is real estate or if your real passion is something that, like, I don't understand why you went through this path to get to there.
Well, they're selling stuff though. You notice that because the way it works in Facebook dentistry is come quote unquote successful or claim you're successful, then stop doing that and charge people to learn how. So that's what they're doing.
But it works because there's a lot of dentists who don't want to be dentists. There's a lot of dentists who want they want their side hustle to be their main hustle. They want dentistry to be in the rearview mirror. And that's like, wow.
I think that's unrealistic.
I 100% agree with that. And, a lot of it, I think, is disingenuous. There's a lot of people out there who are putting up big numbers, but they're not. There's an old saying, don't let someone else's highlight reel define your failures. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of people who only post the positive things and only post their wins, and they don't give a real story about where they are in life or what they go through to get there. I totally agree with that. Now, there's a couple of things that came out and just the things that you guys said that gave me some questions I want to ask, but I also want you to think of your own questions because I'd like to hear some byplay between you just discussing the different practice models. My first question is, how do you feel the price of dental education has changed the outlook of dentistry in the future, or has it? And is dental education too expensive today?
Yes.
It's
expensive. It's too expensive because it's like double the rate of tuition increase is like double what it would be if you just went by inflation. So if you go by that hallmark, it's too expensive. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: it's untenable and it's predatory. It's predatory.
I 100% agree. I don't know.
You're dealing with kids who don't know the difference between money and monopoly money.
Well, but people
they don't.
And there's no risk for the schools. There's no. I mean, the lenders got you by the balls, and so it's predatory because I don't believe you can give consent I don't think you can give informed consent to a 20-year-old on borrowing $500,000. It's
I 100%
actually
agree.
it's actually
They
criminal
don't
in
have the
my
financial
opinion.
acumen. And so I
Right.
don't know if you guys are aware of this. I'm going to interject something real quick because I think this will stir some discussion. You know, so the occupational outlook handbook and the Bureau of Business, I think in the federal government, they actually look at different professions and they establish an earnings ratio. Dentistry has one of the lowest earnings ratios right now based upon, and part of this is the way that reporting is done. So I know you guys are going to make some faces here, but the average dentist in the United States right now makes $168,000 a year. That's what's reported to taxes. And we all know how that game works. But whenever you look at $500,000 minimum today to become a dentist, plus your undergrad, and then you divide that into the 168,000, the earnings ratio is one of the poorest in any industry in the entire United States. I'd love you guys to respond to that. And you can talk a little bit about the way that the reporting is done and things like that, because we all know about tax write-offs, above the line, below the line, that kind of thing, how you can lower your income. But I think that it makes a very stark statement about the future of dentistry. And you guys can disagree with me or whatever you want. I'd love just to hear the discussion.
Well, we went through this
David, you're quiet over there.
In the 70s. You know, we went through this like in the 70s. Dentistry, too many people were becoming dentists. So the incomes went down and less people went to dental school. So when I applied, it was actually very easy to get into dental school. I got accepted at one of the interviews to the Case Western 6-year program at the interview. Very easy back then. So what happened was, as the dental incomes increased, the word got out that dentistry is a good profession. So now it's swung the other way, that there's a lot of demand to become a dentist. So as the price of tuition increases, it'll swing back the other way, I think.
To that point, dental school is currently, if anyone out there is listening, dental school is currently the second hardest professional school to get into in the United States, topped only by veterinary science. You can be an MD a hell of a lot easier than you can be a dentist. Now, there are some differences in the way the schools are done. MDs tend to be weeded out in their second to third year, whereas almost all dental students, if they're accepted, will pass and matriculate and become a DDS. So there are some differences there to be aware of, but it's definitely something for any prospective student out there that you should definitely be keeping in your brain. David, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I understand, the prices, has gone up, but I just want to let people know, it can always be done. Because when I graduated dental school, my wife graduated as a clinical psychologist, and we had both loans, and she stopped working the second I walked into a practice and got a job. So I was in charge of paying back everything. So, we owed over $500,000 in student loans. And I always get then other people, when I put that up, people complaining, well, the interest rate is different, inflation thing is different. And, they got, all I hear is excuses. It's just excuses to me, because I don't care if I graduated with $1 million loan. I was made it to this point no matter what. So, a lot of times I always tell people, it's like how you look in life and who you are. And you want to be this, everything is, this is impossible. This is impossible. Well, your life is going to be impossible. You're just never going to be successful. That's not the way I looked at it. Even coming out with owning $500,000 loan, it took me over 6 months to find the job that I wanted to be in. I just keep looking until I found the right situation. And there's and no one wants to talk. There's such thing as deferment. And, there's other ways you can do things at the beginning of your career, which I fully took advantage of, so that I can be in a practice where I can be successful. So, sometimes mentality has a lot to do with how successful you're going to be.
I'd say that's great advice, 100%. And I'm going to add to that real quick. When you're in dental school, live like a student. When you become a dentist, live like a student. pay off your loans, pay off your debt, pay off your practice. You'll be happy you did, because then you've got nothing holding you down. You can be as successful as you want. Travis, did you have something to add to that? Oh, I'll come back to you, Brady.
Not entirely. I mean, the challenge is, again, yes, you'll hear all the time, dental school is too expensive. And it is, absolutely. But what the hell are you going to do about it? Absolutely nothing. So you can sit here and complain about and whine about and moan about it, which dentists seem to love doing all the time. Or you can find things that you can focus on that you can actually change and you can improve and you can make better and have a better life by not focusing on the negative things, but instead turn your attention on things you can improve and change and make your life a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. Brady, you had something you wanted to add?
Well, I think one thing you can do if you're considering going to dental school is you can use the cost of tuition as an influencing factor of where you go. Because that most dental students, most prospective dental students are thinking, what city do I want to live in? What the program's like? Because it doesn't matter one lick what school you go to. As soon as you get a DDS degree, there's not like law school where you might get into a good firm because you're a Harvard grad. It literally makes no difference where you go to school. So, and the other thing I would add too, if dental school, I wouldn't have a problem with dental school being so expensive if they guaranteed their students all the graduation requirements that they need. It's ridiculous to me, knowing how much dentistry costs, that you can't allocate $25,000 for like an entire 4-year student's 4-year degree, to give them some coupons that they can have some coupons they can give to patients and be like, hey, here's a free crown if you need it for graduation requirements. You get a certain amount of like coupons towards giving free treatment away. Because dental school, the prices that the dental school prices, the prices at these clinics are not good prices.
No, terrible.
No, they're the same or higher than what yours are. Yeah.
Oh, I bet Mautner is cheaper than I just recently learned that I'm a little bit more expensive than OHSU prices at the clinic. So it'd be one thing if they're so expensive, but my question is, why can't you guarantee that your students will do 10 crowns, 5 root canals? I mean, you should be able to guarantee that with the amount of money that they're paying you. They're paying you $500,000 over 4 years. You should be able to allocate $25,000 to $35,000 to say, this covers your lab fees, this covers materials. We can afford to do a few free things to make sure our students have the skills required to go out there and be successful. But these kids are coming out with nothing.
Yep.
Amen. And they're lowering the requirements every year too. Before we delve deeper into this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That blows my mind, because it's like, okay, be expensive, but give them something for their money. Where the hell is this money going?
Yeah.
If it's not going
100%.
to the students to get the patients the treatment that they need, so these students know what they're doing when they get out of school. And it's almost like they're in bed with private equity. You want to start conspiracy theories? I'll start it off.
We're gonna chat more about the specifics.
The private equity involvement is going to force dentists into these situations where they feel like they can't afford to do anything else but work for a DSO that traps them and keeps them beholden to them because there's no other option for them. So there's going to be less opportunities for employment if you have people coming out of school with $600,000 in debt.
Yeah, I totally agree. So before we dive further into dental school and the specifics about, because I do want to talk to you guys and I want you to be thinking about this, how would you fix it? If you had a magic wand, how would you fix dental education? And I want to go through each one of you and ask you that. But before we do, I want to talk to people about something. Brady brought something up. No one has ever asked me what dental school I ever went to. I mean, I get the occasional A&M guy who's like, saw 'em off. And my UT people are like, hook 'em horns. But that's the only people who even comment when they see my degree. But I moved here specifically because I researched all the schools in the United States, and I looked at who had the best clinical reputation for the cost. And that was UT Dental Branch in Houston. So that's where I went. I looked at Baylor. I mean, A&M. And sorry, Travis. I found that they were better scientifically. They had more papers published. They had a higher PhD DDS ratio, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was San Antonio, who also had a really great research program. Let me not mince words. Houston's research program sucked. I was actually supposed to go into the DDS PhD program whenever I got in, and they actually cut the program the year that I was enrolled. So, but yes, move where you're going to pay the least amount of money for your dental education. You get out of your education what you put into your education. You need to be your own advocate, because today education is simply big business. If you are not scrounging for every bit of information that those professors owe you, then you will get exactly what they give you. You guys agree or disagree on that one?
No, I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Well, that wasn't my experience, but, like I was in a special situation because, like I said, my dad and grandfather were dentists. They both went to NYU, and my father wanted me to go to NYU because he wanted me to, follow in his footsteps, and they paid for it. And I offered to go to Stony Brook and save some money. He said, and NYU gives you more patients, better clinical experience. I said, okay, fine. And I wanted to be
NYU actually had such a low pass rate on the boards that they had to require a 5th year now. I mean, that school has really used to be one of the best schools in the nation, and it's gone downhill precipitously.
And it's the most expensive school.
Well, that's also because they're letting
it to require a 5th year. Cool. It's another $125K.
Probably that's motivated by greed and also the type of student that they let in. And I don't want to go beyond saying that, but I don't think that some of those students are there because they have the money to pay all up front, even some foreign students. They have a big foreign dentist program, and others are let in for other reasons. So we didn't have that problem when I went to school. We all passed the boards pretty much.
The next question I'm going to ask you guys, and this is going to lead us into how do we fix dental education? Do you think dental schools select for the wrong type of student? And let me crystallize on that. I believe that dental schools select for academic acumen and not for people skills, communication skills, and clinical skills. What are your thoughts on that? Am I smoking crack?
Wait, they select for that, or they should select for that?
I don't know how.
No, they do select. They select by GPA. I mean, right now, average GPA to get in is like a 3.7. I had a 3.98 whenever I got in. And shit, I don't even remember what I scored on the DAT. I blew the top off the DAT. I also had 180 hours of volunteer service and 3 presidential commendations. And I was worried about getting into dental school. That's fucking ridiculous. I was published 3 times before dental school.
There's
people, no reason.
I don't know how they're going to be picking people for clinical, since I'm now hearing, certain schools are not even considering DAT. So,
I know.
But far as the GPA thing goes, to me, it really is a bit ridiculous. The reason I say that is because, I had terrible GPA when I was in undergrad for the first 2 years because, typical 18-year-old kid, I could, I never went to class. So, but I did make it up later in life. But, as far as, why do they have these interviews? Because I was on the side where, when I was in dental school, I helped out with, giving tours to prospective students and when they were here for interviews. And, they always ask for, and then we sit down afterwards and then we talk about each student with the administrative people. And look, we tell them, I'm like, look, you can't let this kid in. This guy is just way out there. He doesn't have the, human people skills. And on top of that, this kid is psycho. And next thing you know, he's in, the first year, and you're like, why do we even have a saying? Because every kid like that who had a high GPA got in. And so, we were just there, we're a bunch of pics with makeups on because they really didn't care about, what are the third year, fourth year students said. And they were looking for that, the high GPA kids was to get them in. And I don't think they were the right people to be in healthcare.
Anybody else?
Well, you have to have some
something
standard to go by. How can you pick? Yeah, I think you should go by GPA. You have to have some standard to evaluate someone. And dental school for me wasn't what you consider. I didn't think it was hard, but I had a decent GPA, and so that's why I got in. Plus I was in the 7-year program, so I had to have a minimum 3.0. But I had a 3.83, and that was better than most applicants at the time. So
well,
I got
you were also a legacy student too, and a lot of people don't know that adds a lot of points for you getting in whenever it comes to the review board.
100%.
Well,
but it was also easier when I applied. I mean, like I said, it was just I got accepted at the case interview. But you have to go by GPA, and then the interview is secondary. You want to make sure you're not dealing with a psychotic maniac or some kind of crazy guy. So, but you have to have a standard. It's just like a mortgage. You have to have a standard. You have to have credit scores and income. Now the trend in society is to eliminate all standards and just go by some amorphous, qualification. And that's wrong. You have to have a standard,
Yeah, I'll add this because no one's mentioning this. Dental schools care about alumni that give back to their organization. That's what dental schools care about. And the metrics they don't tell you that they're using are metrics designed to identify likely people to give money to them when you graduate, when you're done. So sure,
100%.
but you have to take care of your diversity metrics. You have to take care of all those things that won't get you in trouble. You can't have one certain group. You got to have that taken care of. And beyond that, sure, there's some GPA and stuff, but I really wouldn't focus on that too much. They care about getting money after you graduate. That's what they care about. And their metrics, and they don't tell you this, but I guarantee every single one of them is thinking, who are the most likely people? And they have science on this. They have research and development that tells them who the most likely people are to give them money after you graduate. That's what they care about.
I do not disagree. Travis, you got anything you want to add?
I almost think the debate's a pointless one, and here's why, is I don't think a lot of people realize that the dental education industry is a completely different industry than dentistry. And so nothing we do is going to change it. We can sit here and complain about it all day long, and the complaints are valid, but it's a completely different industry. It's the education industry. It's not the dental industry. And so what we want or we think is good or what is actually good for the industry is not good for them. And that's a big problem.
I do know this.
That begs the question about the ADA, but we'll get into that.
There are apprentice programs for lawyers, for example. You can become a lawyer without going to law school.
Really?
That's a real thing.
Only in one state now, and that's California. I've actually been looking into going back to law school.
Washington as well. I have a friend who's a lawyer, and his wife just became a lawyer.
Connect me with them because I've been trying to find one that I can go to that's remote. I'm not sure
It's
it's
an extensive program that requires, it's a very long-term apprenticeship, and she still has to pass the bar exam, but she does not have to go to law school. And that would be amazing and absolutely appropriate for dentistry. I feel confident I personally could teach someone in 6 months what they learn in 4 years in dental school.
Me too.
Who remembers the Krebs cycle?
36 ATP.
Oh,
I don't remember
36 ATP.
What's really funny is that the Krebs cycle isn't even relevant anymore now that we understand more about microbiology, but we're required to remember it, just to check a box. So let's open up a can of worms, and I'm going to get into trouble on this one. But what is your feeling on the ADA? Do they do a good job for dentistry? What would you change about what they do? Or do we need to completely abolish them? Or are they doing a great job? David, I'm going to throw you to the wolves first.
Yeah, so let's start with abolishing ADA. Answer simply no. The reason being is that unless we have something to replace it, answer is no, because you're going to run you want to become the medicine of now becoming in dentistry, same thing, because medicine went to shit not too long ago. That's one of the reasons why dentistry got so hard to get into, because every medical doctor said, I'm not sending my child to medicine, you got to go into dentistry. So unless we have something to replace it, I'm not going to stand behind, pushing to get rid of ADA. Personally, I have my own
what would
issue.
you do to fix it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fixing it is what we need to do, or having another organization come in and taking it over, because I keep going back and forth. I've been a member for very, very long time. Then I dropped them a couple of years ago, and then this year I went back onto it. Because one of the things I know is that, either you're going to get into the politics or you got to give money. Okay. So I'm not the one who's going to be going out in front of, Congress and ADA and do all that stuff. So yeah, I'm going to give you money and you're going to use it to go ahead and put it out there. So, how do we fix it? We need better leadership up top. And honestly, we need dentists to give a shit. It's just that we have the power in numbers, yet everyone in ADA knows we're not going to do crap. People need to.
It's like herding cats. Getting to a dentist to agree on something that should be scientifically provable about the way that you prepare a tooth, or which tooth needs a crown, which tooth needs an MOD, MFLL, ABCDY filling. You're never going to get two dentists to agree on that. I mean, there's the old meme that says 9 out of 10 dentists agree. The 10th dentist is an idiot. I mean, that's pretty much all we can agree on, is that the other guy's not right. I think they have a hard job. They do. But I think it's worsened by the fact that they have a very, very wide scope. And they're trying to do too many things at once. They're trying to do research. They're trying to do product approval. They're trying to legislate. They're trying to take care of dentists. They're trying to take care of patients. I think they should just leave taking care of patients alone, leave products alone. We don't give a shit. I never look at anything that's ADA recommended. I don't care. I'm going to do my own research. I think they should just handle taking care of dentists and making sure that the future of dentistry is strong, and that they legislate for that. And you guys, if you think I'm full of shit, please.
And I don't want to see any of this voting and all these nonsense done in secretive, but where, everything 100%,
agreed.
Needs to be open. We need to know how you voted, why you said what you did, and all your hours and everything, why we have this bullshit about, we don't know who voted for what. Why are you doing things in secrecy? That makes zero sense to me. And why we allow that, don't know.
Do you think that there is too much insurance company influence on the ADA because of their contributions? And the schools, as a matter of fact.
100%. And just like the rest of the government.
Anybody else want to add some more to that?
Well, the thing I know I opened a can of worms. The ADA has a separate dental quality alliance or something, and then they have this economist who used to just publish relevant statistics, who all of a sudden came out in favor of this value-based care thing, which is like socialism for dentistry. So that concerns me. And also, I didn't like the way the ADA negotiated this insurance reform package with the end coil. So it's like it wasn't even a good negotiation. And they refused to use Dr. Riccala as a consultant for that negotiation. He's the guy that invented the question too and got it through successfully. So it seems like they're not really advocating for dentists 100%.
So breaking that down to your first statement. So what medicine calls that is EBM, evidence-based medicine. And so what they do is, in 2014, we were required to all go to an electronic healthcare, electronic PMS, every single one of us, or you started getting fined. There was a reason for that. They want to be able to collect the data on what the outcomes are for different procedures. Now, I think that's insane, because since we're all not using the same PMS, you can't intercorrelate anonymized data effectively across different platforms to say, oh, this patient had a crown and they went to another dentist to get this fixed, or this patient had a filling, they went to another dentist within 6 months to get a crown put on it, or a root canal, what have you. It's hard to do that in dentistry. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is if we all decide we're going to use the same exact PMS. Or they pass another law that requires all the PMSs to aggregate data in the same way. You guys know I'm a big tech guy. I love this stuff. I think you make some great points there, Steven. The in-coil stuff just to me feels like an absolute betrayal. Does anyone differ on that? Do you guys feel the same way?
I wouldn't say betrayal, but I didn't like that, because it seemed like they were, they're going too easy on the insurance companies with that framework that they negotiated. That's all. And then the value-based care thing could never work because it doesn't give the onus should be on the patient. I mean, patients they don't take care of themselves. That's the typical American patient. They're a train wreck. So to blame a dentist for the work failing is ridiculous. It's not my fault that I do an implant case and the patient goes out and starts smoking like a fiend and eating like gummy bears, and that's not my fault. So if my implants fail, I do more implants than the average dentist, so my failure rate's going to be higher. So, but my patient pool they're not health nuts. So is that my fault that they don't take care of themselves? No, it's the patient's fault.
100% agree, and that's
penalized for that. It's like
there's a regional
hospital. An inner city hospital has more casualties and a higher mortality rate than a suburban hospital. That's just the nature of the beast. You can't change that, and you can't penalize them for that.
Well, we talk about dental IQ, and dental IQ is very much a regional phenomenon. So you can't standardize patients. They make this stuff based upon standardized patients, and they create standardized patients based upon the dearth of data that they have from these PMSs and from records and things like that. And they actually present these to medical students in medical school. Standardized patient 1. They have all the different MDs or MD students treat that patient. The patient presents with, symptoms and complaints and a different personality and yada, yada, yada. You can't do that in dentistry. I don't think it's possible. So anybody else want to jump in on this?
No, it's not possible. It's in fact, people, they like sugar and they don't like to exercise and they don't do anything to take care of their health. So how could you penalize a dentist for that type of patient population? It's impossible. It never works. That will never work.
One of the things that's happening a lot, and I'd love for Travis to speak to this, or David or Brady, whoever, the insurance companies are now using this data within their cohort. They're actually buying this data from people like Renaissance and Vine, and they're looking at the treatments that other dentists do. Well, I specialized in doing full mouth reconstructions. I did a fuck ton more crowns than the dentist down the street. I did a shit ton more implants, but I was getting letters all the time. Oh, you do too much of this procedure. Luckily I was fee for service. I didn't give a shit. Pay me, don't pay me. The patients paid me beforehand, but I think that can be a problem because we as dentists don't tend to have a really great, how would I put it? We tear ourselves down a lot. I think it's the nature of the way that dental school is run, that we are highly critical of each other and highly critical of ourselves. So if this insurance company sends you a letter and says, oh, you do more crowns than other people, your first thought isn't, well, for most of you guys, because I'm just arrogant, F you dental insurance. I don't give a shit what you think. Most dentists are going to look at that and go, am I treating planning too harshly? Am I over treating? What do you guys think about that? Am I wrong about that, or do you think that's a thing?
No, it's absolutely a thing. But again, it's what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit here and complain about it, or you're going to modify it. So the fun one I had was I had a dentist who brought me one of those letters that said he was doing too many, 3 and 4 service posterior composites. So I ran through his numbers and I ran through his production report. Yeah, he was, because he was underdiagnosing crowns. So you can actually use some of this data to benefit you if you look at it from a different perspective than what it's presented as. Because that's the thing. All statistics are, basically you can make them say almost whatever you want, depending on what perspective you want to put on it.
What did Mark Twain say?
I don't know what quote are you going for, Chris?
Mark Twain said there's liars, there's damn liars, and there's statisticians.
Yeah.
Funny thing
David,
is,
you got to weigh in on this?
Yeah, when I first started, I I think it was after about 3-4 years, I started getting those letters. You do too many buildups, and within 2-3 years after that, I gotten from like many different insurances. I never really changed anything. I'm pretty sure there was some statistical analysis thing that was done around my area or the country, whatever it was. But like I said, I was they said, and I just did whatever was best for my patient. And after that, I haven't gotten one of those letters like in 10 years. I just don't get them anymore. I think it's just more like either they just give up or, because I don't take the insurance that, they really didn't have any power over me. So they gave up, whatever it is. And then I haven't even really thought about those letters until now. You guys just mentioned it because like when I was younger, I did get those, few of those letters and I did have obviously I was in partnership. So I asked my business partner and he's like, hey, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. We could care less. But I'm wondering if I was by myself, I would have thought differently. I was like, if I was taking insurance, I'm like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Or I just need to stop doing it just to appease these insurance companies. I have no idea. I was not in that position, but I could see how that, those letters can't work in that way.
100%. How do you guys feel who take PPOs? How do you feel that affects a PPO practice differently than it affects a fee-for-service practice? I was never beholden to the insurance company. David's not beholden to the insurance company to pay me. And unlike some people, I really just literally don't give a fuck if the insurance pays the patient or not. I know that's a horrible thing to say, but frankly, if they don't pay, it's the insurance company's fault. What do you guys feel?
Well, I think you have to pay attention to the letter, but that doesn't mean you have to, abide by it. I mean, it's just a letter. If they really feel that there's a problem, they'll throw you out of the insurance plan. So I've gotten those letters, but I ignore them also. Because
but does that pressure, do you think, affect a PPO practice differently than it does a fee-for-service practice?
It could.
And I'm not going to include out of network because that's a weird thing.
You have to be aware of it, but you don't necessarily have to change your practice, the way you practice. I mean, I do a lot of crowns. I do a lot of implants, and, I'm not going to stop doing my crowns and implants. Build-ups I don't really bill for because I notice that the insurances, they just don't want to pay for it. So I'd rather just, I don't have time to fight all the time for these stupid battles. So I hardly ever bill for a build-up,
Same.
So,
Same.
Yeah, because build-ups, they don't want to pay. Why bother? Same thing with perio. I'm probably underdiagnosing perio. I don't want to fight that RPC battle with the perio charting and the gingival levels. It's enough of that already. Just get your cleaning, and then we'll do your implants and your crowns and stuff that I could get paid for easily without a battle. I don't have time to fight battles with patients or insurance companies. I go for the path of least resistance. So I'm not going to get paid for a build-up. Hard to get paid for the SRP. Easy to get paid for the crowns, the dentures, the extractions, the root canals, and the implants. So that's what I'm doing.
So all of those are easy to get paid for.
It's easier to sell that to a patient. I don't have time to explain a build-up. By the time you explain it, the next patient that's with me is out the door. Same thing with the SRP. I mean, we do them, but I don't go into a half-hour dissertation on the pockets and the bacteria and the law. They don't care, the patients. I don't really care at this point. Insurances, they don't want to pay it unless you really go through a whole thing. So I just go for the path of least resistance.
So, Brady?
That's it.
Well, that's the answer to your question. I agree with Steve, is that, yes, it affects PPO practices differently because of all those things that Steve just mentioned. I feel the same exact way, but that is it's the game that we decide to play. So the insurance is the gatekeeper of the money, and that's important to me, that we know how to open that gate and easily get what we want to get. The good thing that works in our favor is that insurance companies have such a tiny yearly maximum that it doesn't matter if I get paid for an SRP. It doesn't matter if I get paid for a buildup. I got 6 more things to do on this patient. We'll get our money. And, I do a lot of free buildups as well because I I don't charge the patient for them. I don't care if I'm doing a root canal buildup and crown. A couple $100 isn't going to make or break things. But the peace of mind of like me just moving along with my day, that's what I care about. That's what I value. So yeah. Now a fee for service dentist might be like, oh, I get paid $350 for a buildup. I would never do that for free. Good, great, I do.
That's
No,
the difference,
I love
right?
it. I love it.
That's the difference between fee for service and they have PPO has the way of, like I said, running their own practice, and
Yeah.
My guess is that Travis is actually different because he knows how to manipulate all those insurances. He's very smart about it, and I'm like, I really don't worry about insurance. This is my fees and this is what I'm doing, so this is what I'm gonna get paid for. So how you want to take care of it, how you want to do it, that is the difference between Office A, B, and C.
So as I was saying earlier, and now I'm going to get to Travis. I began life as a PPO dentist and slowly migrated to become a fee-for-service dentist. And one of the reasons was the number of chairs. But another one was because I was having to constantly study insurance law and read contracts. Travis and I had, one or two conversations about this over the years before I became fee-for-service. Travis is actually the one who convinced me. Yeah, Travis is actually the one who convinced me to get the laws passed that I did here in Texas that would kind of hamstring the insurance companies in a way to make them play a little bit more of a fair game. But I don't know that I would ever go back to a PPO type practice. I'll echo David. I'm just too fucking lazy. Travis, all you, man, jump in on this conversation here.
So insurance is like anything else in life. It's a game that you play. Everything is a game that you play in life. You're playing games with relationships. You're playing games with, companies. You're playing games with anybody you're buying things from. And that's not to say it's a manipulative thing or a negative thing. It's a game. They have goals that they have, and you have goals you have, and you got to find ways to make those goals merge together so you're both happy in some form of a compromise. I mean, that's the way every relationship works in life. So if you're going to be fee for service like David and not give a damn, and I'm sure David probably gives a little bit more of a care than you did, Chris, just because I know personality differences. But okay, great. That's one game to play. You play the game of how to make the patient happy, that their insurance isn't really a part of the picture. But then, a majority of patients in the country are brainwashed or have this idea that insurance is a requirement for them or something important to them. Great. You've got to kind of play with that. And so if you're going to work with insurance companies, you got to find ways to play that game correctly in a way that both of you get what you want. Insurance companies want a lot of what we want. They want low overhead, mostly for payroll, because their payroll costs are the highest costs that they have. And so anything we can do to reduce their payroll costs, meaning get claims that get paid without effort, make both of us happier. And that's the game I play, is how to make it to where I can submit the information in an easy format that the insurance company can go, yep, we like it, we'll pay you, great, move on. I get my check, they get low payroll, and everybody wins.
So my next question is going to be probably more targeted toward Travis and Brady and Steven. But of course, David, if you have something here to add in, please jump in. How do you feel that the prevalence of third-party umbrella services and network leasing has changed the face of dentistry, and has it affected your practice? And go ahead, guys.
No, hasn't affected my practice at all. But my practice is in Broward County, Florida. We have a lot of retired people on Medicare. So what has changed my practice is the government has gradually increased the funding to the private insurance companies to provide Medicare services. So to get these people to enroll, they've increased the dental benefits. And that's the main thing that I'm dealing with now. And that's been a positive thing for my practice. So the dental leasing, I don't care about that. In fact, I don't even read contracts. I just sign. I don't care. They're all the same, the dental insurances. They'll pay or they won't pay depending on their quarterly results. And I'm like Travis, I'm playing the game, and that's it. So they could lease me, not lease me. I could care less. Just pay me and don't bother me. That's
Did
it.
anyone else see the cringe on Travis's face whenever he said he didn't read contracts?
They're all the same. I mean, they all have this boilerplate. Well, you could shake your head all you want, but that has not affected me one bit, those contracts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
I
like,
think that's because
well,
Well,
what are you going to do
before
about a dental
Right.
contract? What are you going to do about a contract? You're going to change it? You're going to tell them, I need you to change this contract before I'll sign it? They're not going to
Just
change
sign the thing and get paid. Who cares?
it.
Yeah. I have no time to read contracts. I barely have time to see the patient. So I sign. I don't take Medicaid because I don't want to go to jail. That's it. And I'll keep doing that until I quit.
Brady, network. Yeah, no shit, man. Network leasing and umbrella coverages.
Yeah, I actually don't even know what that means. So I'd
Okay.
say it has zero effect on me because I don't even know what that is.
Travis on that one. Let's jump to Travis on that one. He's got a great handle on it. Travis, first of all, explain what it is, and then tell us how it's affected your practice or hasn't.
So network leasing is where one insurance company says they don't have enough providers in their network to be able to sell their policies to the employers. So they will lease or purchase a list of dentists from another network or another dental insurance company. So therefore, they can bump up their numbers on the number of providers they have. So when they sell their policies to employers, they're a sellable product. So the way a lot of dentists unfortunately deal with this is they don't know anything about it. They don't bother checking with it. And so they end up getting lower fees than they could be getting just because, if you have two insurance companies that network affiliate with each other like this, the fee that you get is going to be the lower of those two companies. But it's a strategy game. If you play the strategy right and you only sign contracts with higher fee structures, you get in network with a lot more patients, but at that higher fee structure, if you do it in a strategic way. If you do it in a non-strategic way, you're actually going to get lower fees than what you possibly wanted or possibly.
Well, how do you even know?
Those contracts
How do you know when you get a contract emailed to you or faxed to you or mailed to you? How do you know? I have no idea. I don't care. It says ABC PPO will send you patients, and then Steven G. Mautner on the bottom, sign, boom, send it back. How do you know that? There's no way to know that.
Yeah, there is. Absolutely. You're getting a fee structure. So you got to look at your fee structures. You've got, I don't know, Monty, how many fee structures do you have? 20.
100.
You look at them and go, well, see, here's the difference. I'm in network with 50 different companies. I have 3 fees: my office fee, one umbrella fee, and Delta's fee. Because Delta,
I have hundreds of fees. It depends on the particular plan fee schedule. And
that's the thing. For me, I have 3 fees, and 80% of my practice is one fee schedule, which all the insurance companies use, which makes it really easy for my team because they pretty much memorize the fee structures. They know what the fee for every surface filling is and every crown and every buildup because they see the same 40 numbers every day, which are higher numbers. I mean, they're about a 15% discount from my natural full fee structure, which is fairly average for our area. So it's just a game. If you play the game well, you win. That's
Wait, can I ask a question?
Travis, do you remember? Yeah. Go ahead.
So you're saying you're in network with 50 different insurance companies, but they've all agreed to the same fee structure for you?
Yes, one contract.
And are you
so I signed one contract.
You're sending them your contract?
No, so I signed up with an umbrella plan. In this case, it was Carrington, but it's different around the country on which one's going to be your best one. I signed up with
which Carrington was
Carrington
that, by the way?
took the effort of going to the other companies and getting me under Carrington's umbrella. So I'm in network with Aetna, Blue Cross, and MetLife, and all the normal ones you think of, United's, but under Carrington's fee structure. So I'm listed as in network. I am in network. Every patient sees me as in network, but instead of a 40 and 50% discount, I have a 15% discount.
Well, do the patients ever find out that they're only getting a 50% discount from you and then go to another dentist that they could get a 50%? Have you ever had that situation?
Some, yeah, sure. Some do. But I'll say a majority of patients, if they're happy, if they're treated well, aren't going to go price shopping. I mean, people don't love dentistry to begin with. They're not going to go to 5 different dentists and have 5 different people poking their mouth. They're just not.
I've had
I
patients
think,
that go to 4 or
Travis,
5 different.
Yes, some do, but that's
Travis,
the
I think-
exception.
They choose
not
me
the rule.
because
I think
I'm
before-
the cheapest. You know?
Before we
Well,
run
that's
too
because
far
you
astray,
market yourself as the cheapest, which, okay, if that works for you, great. I mean,
so hold on, guys, hold on. Before we run too far astray, Travis, I think you need to explain the difference between reimbursement rates and fee schedules and allowables, because I think that's what the confusion is being caused by.
so 85-90% of PPO policies out there will pay what people know as UCR. UCR is the insurance's magic number. It's not the office's number. It's the insurance's magic number of the most they will pay. So if your fee for a crown is $4,000, doesn't matter. Their UCR is $1,500. They will pay off a $1,500 fee. You have some lower premium policies where cheaper employers want, something. And the insurance company says, okay, great. Then we're not going to pay off UCR. We're going to pay off a different fee structure, which usually is called MAC, max allowable charge. With those, and I'll use an example. So we are in network with Cigna through Carrington, but Cigna Advantage, which is about 10% of the policies Cigna sells, does not work off UCR. It works off MAC. And so for those patients, when they come to see me, insurance will pay 80% of that different fee structure, which ends up being about a 50% of the UCR fee structure. So for those patients, do we lose some of them? Sure. But like I said, that's a small minority of the overall patient pool.
So can I have a follow-up question here?
Mm-hmm.
If I have a patient who has Cigna, let's say I have 2 patients that have Cigna, and one comes to me under just Cigna's regular fee schedule, and one goes to you under Carrington's umbrella. So you have 2 different, they think they have the same plan. They obviously don't.
Yep.
They'll pay more at your office than at my office.
Yes.
All right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Unless they're Advantage, yes. All normal Cigna policies will pay the same percentage of UCR, and their UCR is higher than the umbrella plans.
Okay, so they'll pay, because your umbrella plan pays out more, their 50% of a crown or whatever they cover is going to be a lot.
Still 50% of the fee that they're paying, yes. So the patient still pays 50% or the 20% for a filling.
That's interesting.
So you
But
get
the
higher
insurance
fees if
never
you
tells
want.
them
You
they're
just
being
go ahead and
overcharged. Yeah, and the nice thing there is that you don't get those notes that my patients and David's patients get. You could have saved $500 by going to an insurance network, insurance network dentist or in-network dentist. They bring me those things, and I'm like, well, man, I can get you some names, but they don't leave.
Yep. None of my patients get those letters.
So,
I'm in network.
and that's the thing is when you are in network through an umbrella plan for both Steven and Brady, because it actually affects you guys, you're in network. You're in United. It's just, and you're still on their rolls too. So patients will still find you as in-network dentist. You just get paid more.
Yeah,
It's a horrible.
that's not really attractive to me or Steve, I don't think. We honestly have a belief that, I won't speak for Steve, but I have a belief that dentistry should be as accessible as possible. And so I'm not interested. I'm very happy with what I'm getting paid, for example. I don't need to charge more. I value my time a lot more. And to get this organization done, any way you slice it, it's going to cost you. You're trading time for money.
It doesn't cost time.
Well,
Is it
No, it actually costs less time.
I'm like
There's
Brady. I
less
don't
team,
care.
there's less staff time included there.
If
But
I
it-
wanted
you know,
to set up
different-
my office the way Travis's office is set up right now, it would take a considerable amount of time.
Not
Well,
of
that's a
your
good
time.
point. The changeover definitely would take some effort there.
Yes.
Okay, so now
Doesn't have
is
to be
where I'm
personal
going
effort,
to.
but yes,
Now is where I'm going to
You're
actually.
saying it doesn't.
open
You're
things.
saying it doesn't take time.
it doesn't take personal effort if you don't want it to. You can outsource it just like anything else is outsourced.
Well, outsourcing is still your time and money. I mean, if I'm
It's money, yes.
so like
I
my
still have to
staff
look
is,
at fee schedules and study those and understand. Because now my priority is I need to get the highest reimbursement from every insurance company. That is going to consume my entire brain to make sure. Right now, I don't give a crap what insurance companies pay me. I don't even know what the insurance companies pay me. And if I'm going to switch gears to that, then I'm going to be hyper focused on making sure I'm getting the highest reimbursement rate, which for some dentists, that matters a lot to them. For me, it doesn't matter if I'm getting paid $1,000 for a crown, $1,200 for a crown, $1,500. I honestly don't even care. I'm fine with all of it.
Me too.
Why do you feel like you personally have to focus on it?
How do I know I'm getting the highest fee?
I think he's
Pay somebody to
hire
hire you.
someone.
I mean, that's it. Just hire someone. Just like we hire somebody to do our accounting. We hire somebody to do. No, I don't do this. We hire somebody to do our accounting. We hire an attorney to do our legal
Travis,
stuff.
what you need
Why
to
not
do
hire somebody
is you need to
Now
hire
I'm
somebody.
hiring an accountant and hiring an attorney. I understand what you're saying. I could outsource this, but that's still consuming my money and my time to do that. Where I'm
money
right now, I'm kind of in a very happy place. You see what I'm saying? Like,
So
now
Travis,
I'm
I think
hiring
what
an
you need to
attorney
do.
to evaluate my fee schedules, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
Travis, what you need to do is you need to hire someone, train them to do what you're talking about, and then create a service for other dentists that will do this for them so it doesn't take up their time or their team's time.
funny. Other companies have already done that. So yeah.
Yeah, well, there's like PPO Profits. Vivek Kinra had that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's companies that do that, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
I'm going
Brady,
to tell
I
you
don't
for
care.
a fact. Now, I'm going to tell you for a fact, those guys actually have an interest in keeping you in network with as many insurances as possible because they want you to need them. So back in 2018, I told everyone that network leasing was coming. Travis, do you remember people were calling me Chicken Little? Oh, the sky is falling. No one believed me. I had inside information on what the insurance companies were doing. Exactly. Well, I know you because you've got the same information I do. No one fucking believed me. I told them this was coming.
Well, that hasn't affected me one bit. So I don't really care about network leasing. I don't really care.
Your fees are going down because of it.
My fees are really not going down because it depends on which plan I'm participating with. And you guys keep ignoring Medicare Advantage. That's the biggest part of my practice. And those plans have been
I want to actually talk about that
generous every year. That's the biggest
I
part
want
of my
to talk
practice.
about that specifically. Steven, hold off on that. Hold off on that for a second, because I actually want you to talk about that specifically. And I believe Brady does some Medicare as well. So I want you guys to
Medicaid.
really talk.
I mean, I actually do the
Medicaid,
Medicare Advantage plan. There's like a dual complete plan. People have to enroll in it, but it gives them like $3,000 or $4,000 a year in benefit.
So before we do jump there, I want to give David a chance, because David's unfortunately the only super polite person here. We all talk over each other and we're used to it. But David, do you have anything that you want to talk about with the network leasing and the umbrella plans, or should we move on to our next topic?
Well, you know what? I actually have a second practice where I'm down to 2 dental insurances, and I think it's wise for dentists to, because we're just talking about our own structure, but I think for me, I'm learning a lot just talking to you guys, and what Travis is just saying. A lot of these young dentists coming up and purchasing their own practice, running their own practice, and majority of them obviously is going to start with being a PPO practice. And what Travis just said, I wish I would have known when I purchased this second practice about a year and a half ago, because when I walked in, I think he took every PPO, and first thing I did was cut it down to 5, and now I'm down to 2. I think I would have done it differently if I would have known what Travis was talking about, because I would have gone under that one, find that one fee and being an umbrella and do things even, I might not even need it to be cutting insurances, people who's listening to this is pretty important information. It's just like, yeah, there's different ways to do things, but I personally would have done it completely different just listening to this podcast for 10 minutes. It's so there are informations that are out there people don't know about. We just know that there is fee for service. Hey, there's PPO, there's Medicaid, but within that scope, there's actually a lot of different ways of doing things. This is what I'm getting out of. And to be honest, I never really paid attention to what Travis talks about. And he's online all the time talking about these things just because, I run a fee-for-service practice. But now I'm looking at it, I should have paid attention because, when I'm buying my next practice and next practice, I'm going to want to do it a little bit differently just from this information.
100%. Guys, before we get into anything else, I do want to take this chance to let you all know, if you're a member of the Business of Dentistry, every year, once to twice a year, we host the TBOD Business of Dentistry Conference. It's a fantastic conference. Travis speaks at it. He explains a lot of this stuff as well as systemization. You probably won't ever catch me on stage because I didn't enjoy that.
And you fall off.
Only that one time. See, I learned my lesson. I'm a quick study, but it'll be on TBOD. If you're interested in joining us for one of those, they're relatively inexpensive, and literally the next day you can go back to your office and produce another $5,000. What did that guy say? $5,000 a day that he was producing just from my talking to him about the case acceptance. So we'll talk more about that later. But first, I want to get into Medicaid and Medicare. And Steven, Brady, I don't know a lot about that side of things because I've never participated in it. So I'm going to actually let you guys kind of be our host here. I want you to ask the questions maybe of each other. Brady, can you go ahead and start us off with questioning Steven about, Medicare, and then maybe back and forth with Medicaid?
I don't have any questions for Steven about Medicare. I understand Medicare.
I've got lots.
Actually, my question is, Steve, why don't you accept Medicaid?
He doesn't want to go to jail.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't want to go to jail.
He said that.
And that was raided by the FBI because he was like soliciting patients. I read the story about that guy on what's that guy's name? I forgot his name. The guy that went to prison. Remember Roy Shelburne. And in Florida, the dentist, the Medicaid plan for adults is very bad. I got sued by a Medicaid patient. The patients are kind of like lowlifes, and I just don't want to be involved with that. But other than that, I'll take anything.
So does that mean cheaper dentistry only for people who aren't lowlifes?
No, even some of the other patients are lowlifes. But see, here's the difference. If you have an overpayment issue on with private insurance, they send you a letter. We overpaid you for this. Please submit payment to this address. That's fine. Medicaid, the Gestapo show up with a SWAT team, and they take your files, and then you have to wonder if you're going to go to jail now. I don't want to go to jail for doing dentistry.
There was that one dentist. There was that one dentist in Texas that his office billed out in orthodontics. Travis, I'm sure you remember this because he was big here. He billed out in orthodontic cases more than the entire fucking state of California.
Yeah, that's
out of
true.
His one office. Where was it? Dallas?
I don't remember the city. No.
It's also
it was crazy.
It's not good in Florida, the Medicaid for adults. I don't really want to see kids. I mean, I see some children, but I don't want to be like overwhelmed with kids doing sealants, and I just don't want to do it. I'm busy enough with the other planes I take.
So Steven, walk us through the Medicare. I always forget we help the kids, but we care for the old people. I never remember. So talk to us about Medicare Plus and just the specifics of the program to illuminate those of us who don't know really anything about it.
Okay, so Medicare Advantage, I think it started about maybe 10 years or so ago. The government figured, the government's always wrong, of course, but they figured out that Medicare traditional, which is like a fee-for-service plan for medicine, they overpaid per each patient. So they contracted with private insurers to give them X amount of dollars so they could control the healthcare costs that the government was paying out. So initially, this skewed the population on these plans towards healthy elderly patients. But then, of course, some of the patients were unhealthy, and the plans lobbied the government to increase their reimbursement if they had more unhealthy patients, which encouraged the insurance companies to give extra benefits to attract these patients. So one of these was dentistry. So, of course, they lobbied, the dental plans have gotten more and more generous because the insurers lobbied the government to increase the amount of money that they receive. And the benefit of these plans, to me, is that the patients don't even have a copay. If the service is covered, there is no copay. So and they've been even covering implants lately. Last year, I did several full mouth implant cases on Delta Dental Medicare Advantage for AvMed patients. So this is the biggest part of my practice. So it's not even really traditional PPOs. It's these Medicare plans with no copay. Like Humana Gold, they give them up to $5,000 with a $2,500 debit card to come in and see me. So and they cover implants. So with my implant fees of roughly $1,500 a case, I could do like 3 implants on these people. And sometimes they pay out of pocket for additional, but I'm very busy with these.
Walk us through any kind of record keeping or anything like that's an additional that you have to do to see these Medicare Advantage patients.
No.
Any limitations and things like that?
No, same record keeping. And even a couple of DSOs that I was in negotiation to sell with, they didn't want to be involved with the Medicare because they think it's the government. It's not the government. I'm with the private health insurers. I'm not dealing with the government. They're paying me. And the main thing is that for what they cover, there's no copay to the patient. So like Humana pays 100% for their crown or their denture. I mean, there are limitations, but within those limitations, there's no copay. So
Travis,
it's a very profitable.
Before I jump to Brady to talk about Medicaid, Travis, are any of these Medicare Advantage benefits covered under the umbrellas and under network leasing yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but I will say I'm not in that space to know which companies affiliate with each other. So I'm not the expert on that one.
Definitely something for a future podcast. Brady, talk to us about how to not go to prison treating patients for the government.
I mean, it'd be really awesome. It'd be really funny if, like, 5 years from now, I'm in prison. And
no, that would not be funny at all. I would cry.
Listen, I know docs that have gotten in big trouble, or know of docs that have gotten in big trouble with Medicaid for sure. What Medicaid does, though, is Medicaid waits 5 years for you to keep on making the same mistakes over and over again. They accumulate. Now you have a $5 million fine because they've waited 5 years. You're making the same mistake over. Like Steve said, insurance companies, when they overpay you, they'll tell you, we overpaid you. Medicaid won't tell you that. They'll wait for 5 years and you keep billing the same wrong way. And they'll say, oh, now you owe us $1 bajillion. They wait for a long time. But every case that I know of where someone's gotten in trouble, I feel they deserved it. There was the hoverboard dentist in Alaska who got in trouble for the hoverboard, but that's not why he got in trouble. He got in trouble because he solely by himself represented 30% of the payouts for conscious sedation billing in the state of Alaska. So that's what you didn't know. The hoverboard thing made him famous and got the attention that he probably didn't want.
Made the target.
Right. He didn't go to prison because he did an extraction on a hoverboard. That was super unprofessional, obviously. And, I mean, if I'm being honest, a little impressive.
I was going to say, you kind of smiled there. I think you might do that, but now it's already been done.
I wouldn't record myself doing that. I'm going to record that and post that. Even I post a lot of stuff I shouldn't post, but I wouldn't post that.
I'm surprised Steven's not having to do a hoverboard just to get between all those patients he's seeing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Rooms are close together.
But, in my experience, I've been audited by Medicaid a few times. And in my experience, they are looking for people who are, if every extraction is a surgical extraction, you should be worried. You should be very worried. If you never do a single surface composite, if you're only doing 3 surface and 4 surface composites, and that's 90% of all your fillings, you should be worried. They're keeping track of that. So, those are the types of things they're looking for. I've gotten disciplinary action against me from the board because my perio charting was incomplete. I am currently if you look at my license right now, it's public that my license is active with conditions because I was very vocal about perio charting is dumb. I still kind of feel that way, but we have to do it because if you don't, and the only reason you have to do it that I've experienced even going through disciplinary action is to avoid disciplinary action. Nothing clinical has ever been brought to my attention of here's what you're missing clinically. The reason to do it is to get out of trouble.
Right.
So now I'm squeaky clean. Go look at all my charts now. I get audited randomly by the state of Medicare, by the state of Washington,
and all state of Medicaid.
By the state of Medicaid.
Exactly. That's there's more to that statement that we could unpack later, but okay.
But audits don't bother me, and audits don't bother me because I'm confident that what I do is honest. And if there's a mistake, there's mistakes. There's not deliberately charging things. I know dentists that I know personally who tell me that when you break when you break a papilla with a periosteal elevator, that's a surgical extraction. And I'm like, bro, you need to reconsider your position on that because no one's going to agree with you.
If you want to be called that a surgical extraction, you better damn well be creating an incision, pulling down a flap, eating some bone up with a burr, and you better be able to say why you did it. You know,
well, you got to do that.
My roots came together, or the angulation was such that I could not damage the adjacent tooth. You've got to be honest. And I think you bring up a real point there is that there's a lot of dishonesty in dentistry today. And maybe that's why we're all afraid of Medicaid. We only hear about the bad stories.
Right. And there's never anyone who's like, oh, I'm just trying to help the community. I made an honest mistake. No, you hear people who are like, they're doing conscious sedation on people. And State of Alaska was paying like $1,800 a pop on that. And he was doing single extractions and forcing people to use their forcing people to do conscious sedation when they really didn't need to or didn't want to. Right. And so there was a big problem. I mean, but I've never heard a situation where I'm like, oh, this is a witch hunt and that's all that this was. And I got a lot of people who say that they know these situations, but honestly, it's really hard to know the details of what people are doing. And I just know a lot of dentists don't know what a surgical extraction is. They don't. I mean, maybe they are adding surfaces. Maybe they are calling everything surgical. I
will differ from you on one thing. Local boards, there is 100% such a thing as a witch hunt. I'll tell you that.
Oh, you're talking about like peer review mediation?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not. But at
in
least
state
in the
boards,
state of
but
Washington,
so far as nationally goes, I agree.
Peer review mediation in the state of Washington is usually done by your local chapter of your dental society, and they have no disciplinary authority. So they can be mean and they can be rude and they can be harsh. And actually, my experience with the dental commission, the state board in Washington, is they've even told me your peer reviews are more harsh, but they have no authority to discipline. They can't do anything to your license. They can't fine you money. So yeah, but I've got in trouble. The reason I got in trouble is because my own mouth. I mean, that's honestly, like me personally, the reason I've had 20 board complaints against me.
No.
All of them have been dismissed. No disciplinary action except for one, which I deserved. I wasn't doing perio charts. And
I've had
you and I have that in common. My mouth gets me in trouble sometimes too. But so real quick, I want you to cover something of practical nature for anybody who's listening to this who might be considering doing Medicaid. Can you talk to us about the setup? What do you have to do to set this up to where you know that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's to make sure that you don't get in trouble?
What?
Other than perio charting.
Like you have to be good with your notes and stuff, and that's where my shortcomings come from. But that's where I learned the most. Is I learned because going through the gauntlet of the audits and the investigation. See, I was originally investigated for insurance fraud. That's what the original reason was. When they found no fraud, they jumped to, well, your perio chart sucks, so let's just nail you for that.
And they will always find something.
Yeah,
always.
If they want to, they'll always find something. So, but now, my goal with that is to become bulletproof. And so I think that through my experience of seeing my shortcomings and seeing where I was falling short, is that I feel pretty confident now. These audits don't scare me at all. They're unannounced. Someone from Olympia, Washington, comes into my office unannounced and says, I want 10 charts. They're almost always Medicaid charts because it's a population that is, they want to defend and make sure people aren't taking advantage of a needy population, which I totally understand and I'm in agreement with. So I'm actually on board. I've learned more from those experiences than anything else in my career. So it's just taking notes. To make it lucrative, that's a whole different question. But I don't make a lot of money from Medicaid reimbursements. I make a lot of money from the non-covered benefits that this very needy population has. It's the most needy population that exists. And the majority of dentists, 100%, don't see them. So, but they're the people who
I don't like the random audits. The random audits that's a game breaker for me. Like the insurance companies, they audit me too, but they tell me in advance, we need these charts. We're coming February 12th at 2 p.m., and I could prepare for that. But to be that to me, I don't want someone just walking into my office like they own the place. That's not why I became a dentist.
Well, that was part of my agreed order because of my disciplinary action. That will be the case for 4 years for me until the year 2026. Okay. And so my license will say active with conditions, which looks bad, right? But you can actually look at my agreed order. You can look at the disciplinary agreement. Anybody can go on the state of Washington's website and find that and look that up. And what you're going to find is, I didn't do chart notes. Specifically perio charting.
Places don't even look at that stuff,
State thing is looking up your license.
No, hygienists who are mad at me online. That's who does it.
Yeah, patients don't. No patient has ever said to me, you have 2 board complaints here. Or what was the...
I may have indicated
that's
that.
More for us
I may have
to
indicated
do when we're
earlier.
bored. Let me go and look up David Yang and see if he has any board.
Right, exactly.
But I like sharing and being open.
I may have talked earlier that Brady gets in trouble with the hygienist for some reason. I don't know with the things you say,
Well, okay, so that disciplinary action came from an incident 5 years ago now, I think, and it's still not completely done.
They take forever.
There's still a CE requirement I have to take. I made a hygienist mad because in a podcast I said perio probing is stupid. And I don't hire hygienists. I think a lot of hygienists do feel that as a threat, like I'm coming for their job. But it turns out they all quit anyways without me doing anything. So they didn't need me to do that. But I love hygienists. I don't hire hygienists. I would hire a hygienist. It would have to be on a base rate plus commission. I would pay them like a doctor, but no hygienist. I've had several interviews, several offers have been given to hygienists to work in my practice, but they will get a base rate plus commission or plus production. And no, 100% of them said no to that. I wouldn't say, they can find a $60 an hour job in my area pretty easily. So they don't need to risk a $35 an hour base rate plus 10% commission on production.
Right. If you don't get paid to sit in your ass, if you only get paid if you work.
Yeah. Right. So, and I want to incentivize quickness. When back to your question, how do I make Medicaid work? I am quick, and that helps because I can do fillings fast. I hire FDAs that fill for me. They're allowed to in the state of Washington. And so I utilize and delegate to the maximum ability that the law allows. And 100%. That's how we make it work. But I don't make money on $36 single surface composite resins. That's what Medicaid think. I think maybe 36 for a 1 surface and 48 for a 2, which boggles my mind why dentists fudge the numbers on that, because you're selling your integrity for like $13. That's the difference between a 1 surface and a 2. It's like $13. Right. It's like, that's not where I make my money when someone is feeling the effects of the choices they've made of like, I've pulled 6 teeth in my mouth and I can't chew food now. Now I'm ready to listen. What do I have to do? And I sell them implants. The only thing what I think is false is that dentists believe that people on Medicaid don't have money, and I believe that's false. That's not my. They do have money. They just don't value their teeth, which is that's the uphill battle. But once they lose 6 or 7 or 8 teeth, they value teeth.
So technically, what types of things would a practice have to do to set up to become a Medicaid practice? Walk us through, not just the philosophies, but walk us through the actual technical steps that they would have to do. How do you apply for it, et cetera, et cetera?
I think it's just some paperwork, and you get a contract that if you're like me and Steve, you just sign it, and they start sending you people. And you should probably get a bigger waiting room, probably.
Does it need to be signed in blood or not?
A special number, a Medicaid number. So that's pretty much it, because I've applied for it too.
Yeah. But and also part of me is like, I love my Medicaid patients. There's a high cancellation rate. This is true. That's often said about them. But man, I get along. I like, for the most part, I like poor people. I like people who need my help. I like people who are turned away or forced into government federally qualified health centers, which are garbage, by the way. Not the dentists. The dentists are fine, great people, but the way that it's set up to get paid by encounter should be the number one thing that the ADA is fighting against. You should not allow payment by encounter. That's the biggest example of supervised neglect that we allow to happen as a profession. But it's pretty simple. You just bring them. I mean, they'll fill your seats, man. There's so many of them.
Yeah, I worked in a Medicaid practice in Harlem when I first got out of school. So that made me the dentist I am today, because it was like organized chaos. Like no appointments. They just came in. The owner said, look, do as much as you can. You may never see them again. So I was doing like 15 amalgams in an hour and all kinds of crazy stuff. But the patients were great. I thought the patients are really nice people.
There was a problem there. There's a problem there in New York City. I know that there was one of the national laws that came down about giving gifts to patients for treatment was actually because of something that occurred in New York. They were actually giving gift certificates to patients if they would get on a bus, and they would bring the whole bus over to a Medicaid practice, and they'd unload them all, and then they would treat them, and then they'd send them back to wherever they came from. And that was found to be slightly unethical.
I don't like. See, I that's the problem with the Medicaid, because they want you to help poor people, but then they don't want you to try too hard. Help them, but don't help.
Insane.
Yeah, that's insane. And, as far as New York City goes, that's the least of the problems up there, because I grew up there, and that's the least of the problems. The Medicaid dental, that's actually probably a positive about New York City. The Medicaid there was relatively generous, but the life there stinks. So who cares?
It's too damn cold. So my next question.
Too expensive, too dirty, too liberal. I mean, take your pick.
My next question, before we get into politics here, my next question is, if you had to put into order these three attributes for a dentist who is a practice owner, how would you order them and why? Communication skills and likability, business acumen, clinical skill. Put these in the order that you feel they deserve to be in to predict the outcome of a successful dental practice owner. I'm going to go to David first. I know I did. David first.
I'm going to say exactly the order you put it in. The reason being is this: I'm talking to 4 other dentists who are very successful. We do our businesses all differently. But why are we all successful? Because honestly, dentistry is not like regular medicine. People don't go, I'm so scared to go see my MD. No one ever says that. Every dental off, oh, my dentist, what do you like him? Oh, my dentist is fantastic. He's great. Da, da, da. Why? Because, what did you open up your mouth and took a look and say, whoa, look at his amalgam, look at his MO. His class 2s are fantastic. It doesn't get nothing. I don't have any food traps or nothing. It's just gorgeous. No one says that. It just says, oh, my dentist is great. His office, they're so friendly. His staff is so friendly. If you're not a people person, dentistry is really not for you. Or at least you need to learn how to fake it. Okay? Because people need that. People come in, and obviously, there's different type of people. Some people need to be, seen early and be on time. Other patient needs you to hold their hand, whatever it is. If you can be a chameleon and you can have that relationship with patients and you have that communication skills, then you're going to be successful. It really doesn't matter that if my hand skills is terrible compared to the guy next door. Okay, if I have this better sense of how to communicate with patients, then I know how to run my business. Then and it's sad because clinical part is where I feel like I excel, and this is my focus in my dentistry and all that stuff. But if I don't have the first 2, third one doesn't matter, because you're gonna you can be a good associate somewhere maybe, but you're not gonna make it as a business. in your business, running a business, and being able to own a successful dental office.
I agree.
Love it. Travis?
I agree completely. I mean, one way to think about it, you can be the best clinician ever. And I know some amazing clinicians that aren't very, what you would consider successful, do work far better than probably everybody in this group. But they're not successful because they can't connect with people. And if you can't get a patient to not only want the dentistry, but want it from you, it doesn't matter how good you are clinically. So that's the least important of the three, especially because what David mentioned is patients can't tell the difference. But if you don't run a good business, which I'd say probably half the dentists do, only because they don't want to focus on it, not because they can't. I mean, you're giving away so much in what you're losing. I mean, the best example I have is the average collection rate is 92%, which is insane. I mean, you're giving away 8% just because you don't know how to collect it. That just, why? Dentistry is hard enough. I don't believe you should be giving away any of it, especially if your fees are lower. If you're a network of anything, you're already giving away something. Why give away more just because your team doesn't do well at collecting money because they've never been taught how to collect money?
Steven?
Well, I agree with exactly what you said. The personality and the communication is 100% the most important thing. I mean, I had patients waiting 2 hours for me, and when they get in the chair, they're all mad, pissed off, and just a few words from me, they're calmed down. And you don't have to spend 2 hours with someone to develop a rapport. It could be 10 minutes, and you just find some common ground with someone. We're all people. And that's it. And you act like a normal human being. Don't act like a dentist. Talk to them like it's a cocktail party. How you doing? What can I do for you today? Oh, sorry about the wait. It's crazy today. That's it. Just act like a person and talk to them in regular terms, not dental terms, and that's it. It's not that that's not that hard. They'll forgive you for a lot of things if you treat them like a person and you communicate well with them. I have patients that they come in every 3-4 months to re-cement the crown I did, and we laugh about it. Oh, your crown came out again. If you're a jerk, they'll be pissed off at you for the crown coming out. Oh, you did a crappy job on that crown. We laugh about it. Oh, the crown came out again. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll put it back. I'll see you after the holidays again. Just don't make a big deal about it. Act like a person. That's all.
Brady?
And business-wise, yes, you have to run a business, but it's math. You take in X, you pay out Y, you live off what's left over. So you have to manage your life to fit into what's left over, and you have to try to collect as much as you can. You have to minimize your expenses. But, I don't go with, I'm not crazy for all these KPIs in dentistry. If my payroll is 26%, I'm not firing someone. Or if my hygiene makes 1.7 times collection instead of 3, I'm not like berating the hygienist for not producing enough. As long as my net income is enough to fund my lifestyle, that's it. I'm happy. I don't overanalyze anything. I'm doing fine. I'm happy. That's all that counts.
Brady?
I would say not only for success, I like the order. I agree with the order, but also like to avoid actually getting sued. People who like you will not sue you. I can tell you without giving specifics on air, off the air, I'll tell you. There are some situations where I believe I could have been sued and I would have lost big time, but I wasn't because they liked me and I took care of them and I solved the problem and we just talked person to person. I'll tell you a funny story. A couple of years ago, this woman came into my office and she needed a couple crowns and she was from Florida. And I told her the price. I think my price back then was like $700 for a crown. She's like, "Oh, I came from an office where they only charge $500." And I go,
Steven's office.
"That's what I said." I said, "What is your dentist, Steven Mautner?" And she goes, "Yes, that was my dentist. Do you know him?" I was like, "Well, I know who he is." And she had the greatest things to say about old Marty over here. And it was kind of because I'm in Washington, he's in Florida. You can't get further away. But as soon as she said that price, I was like, got to be Steven Mautner. And she was like, "Yeah, that's amazing. How do you know that?" So, it's just nothing goes further than just being a likable person.
I love it. I think that's a great place to end. I would actually love to do this again, guys. I think that people are going to get a lot of benefit out of this. Think about some things you'd like to talk about next time if you're willing to do this again. And we can switch it up with different people in the group as well. But I want to say on behalf of all of the audience, thank you guys for giving 2 hours of your time to trying to help other practice owners learn a little something. And I think I definitely learned some things in this podcast. I hope all of you guys did as well. And you folks in the audience, thank you for giving us 2 hours of your time to hear the prattling sound of my voice and these wonderful people here who, honestly, no one's getting paid to be here. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us.
Wait,
No one told David?
that's not how I was told.
Right. Guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining the podcast. Like and subscribe so that you can get more great content like this. And gentlemen, thank you all so very much for being here today. Until the next time, this is Dr. Christopher Huffpower signing off, and we'll see you in the next one.